Hey, fellow mathers. Before we get into this episode, we want to share with you how you can get access to free content, professional learning that will keep your students engaged and doing the math that matters. Get ready to go to this link, mathisfigureoutable.com/challenge.
That's right. Registration is open for the free Math is Figureoutable Challenge that's starting May 15th and runs to the 17th at 7 p.m. Central. We're going to have 3 nights jam-packed with learning and routines that you can take straight to your classroom.
In these challenges, we have a great time. We do some math, talk about classroom experiences, give away super cool bonuses and prizes. You won't just walk away with routines that are naturally engaging and encourage your students to think mathematically. You'll also have a chance to win over $6K worth in prizes, including a few virtual PD sessions for your school. I'll be joined by my wonderful co-host Kim and special guest Jenna Labe.
You can register at mathisfigureoutable.com/challenge for a fantastic learning experience. That's mathisfigureoutable.com/challenge. Now on to the show.
Hey, fellow mathematicians. Welcome to the podcast where math is figureoutable. I'm Pam.
And I'm Kim.
And we make the case that mathematizing is not about mimicking steps or rote memorizing facts, but it's about thinking and reasoning, about creating and using mental relationships. We take the strong stance that not only are algorithms not particularly helpful in teaching, but that mimicking algorithms actually keeps students from being the mathematicians they can be. We answer the question, if not algorithms and step-by-step procedures, then what?
So in this episode, we're going to talk about strategies. So Pam, when I say that word, what pops into your mind?
I think about how you solve a problem.
Like problem-solving strategies? Somebody actually asked me about that, and we've really already done an episode. It was episode 15, if you're interested in what we think about problem-solving strategies.
Yeah, so check out episode 15 if you really want to hone in on problem-solving strategies. What do we mean by that? Because I don't mean that. I don't mean those that not problem-solving strategies. When you said strategy and I said how you solve a problem, I mean how you mess with the numbers or the structure to solve problems. Okay. You know, that big e-booklet that we put out not too long ago? Yeah. We had a whole series. What is it? Episodes 90-something through 90-something, where we talk all about, if not algorithms, then what? And we had, if not the addition algorithm, then what? If not subtraction algorithm, and then what? Multiplication and division algorithm, then what? And in those, we talked all about those strategies. Come on, Kim, you know that. Mm-hmm. So interesting. We've been having conversations lately where it has become apparent to me that while we think we are talking to each other about strategies, we might actually have 4 distinct meanings of the word strategies just in math teaching. Yeah. And so we thought we'd take just a minute today in this episode to parse out the meanings. What could be the 4 different meanings of strategies? So Kim, I'm gonna hone in on the one I was just talking about. In that whole series, if not algorithms, then what? Where we literally worked out, or we worked with people. What are the top 5 addition strategies? What are the top 5 subtraction strategies? Top 5 multiplication strategies being, if I'm going to solve a division problem, if I want to build a kid who's really thinking and reasoning about division, what are the top 5 relationships they should own so that those 5 strategies become natural outcomes, that they can hit a division problem and they're like, yeah, I've got some relationships I could use, and I can choose between these. I'm going to choose that strategy for this problem. Maybe actually that one, because that's really efficient. It's what sort of my brain went today. That's a meaning, a sort of a numeracy strategy, how you mess with the numbers or structure. So give us a little bit more of a sense of the ones that earlier when I said problem-solving strategy, you said problem-solving strategy?
Yeah, right. So those are the ones that, like I said, we mentioned in a different episode, where somebody might say one problem-solving strategy might be to solve a simpler problem, or a problem-solving strategy might be to look for patterns, or to look back to make sure that it makes sense. And we're actually, although some of those things are fantastic problem-solving strategies, we also don't mean acronyms where it says underline this and circle this and check for this. Like some of those acronyms where it's like cubes or
steps.
I don't even know.
All the different We can't even remember them, right? They're acronyms trying to help, but they're kind of step-by-step procedures that kids have to follow all these steps every time
every student for every
yeah.
problem. Yeah.
But that could be a meaning of the word strategy, that kind of problem-solving strategies. We don't advocate those memorizing a bunch of steps to solve problems. If you want to hear more about that, check out episode 15, where we really dive into problem-solving strategies, what to and not to do for those. So what's a third meaning that we might have as we're talking to each other? We're math teachers. We're interested in teaching math. What might be a third meaning about strategies?
Yeah. So we have problem solving and numerical strategies, but there's also teaching strategies, right? Teaching strategies. And when we say teaching strategies, we also, I think, kind of get twisted a little bit, because we might be talking about teaching like an adjective or like a noun. Are we talking about teaching students some strategies, or are they teacher strategies?
Yeah, parsing that out is tricky. So if we're talking about, let's see, you said adjective or noun, and now I'm like stuck. You have to tell me which one this is.
Okay.
So if I'm talking about strategies like good questioning and wait time and using a private signal so that all students have enough time to respond and we don't have this sort of speed thing going on, or if I talk about partnering kids strategically and appropriately, or if I talk about like all the discourse moves to create discourse in my class, things that the teacher does, teacher moves, we call them high leverage teacher moves. Those are some teaching strategies, right?
Yeah.
Those are teaching strategies the teacher does, or teacher moves, teaching strategies.
I guess I kind of, in my mind, I think it's less important that it's an adjective or a noun, but I think of those as they're teaching, like they're how do I say this? They
happening
are
as you teach.
I don't know how to say what I'm thinking in my head. Yeah, I don't know.
For me, it's the kinds of things that we in our deep dive workshops, we have a whole module set aside in the deep dive workshops where we relook at everything we've worked on in the math, and we relook at how we did it. And we talk about, like, was it on purpose that I asked that question at that point? Was it on purpose that I asked every person in the room a question? Was it on purpose? Why did I say, could you restate what that person said? Or did everybody understand this person's strategy, their numeracy strategy? I was about to say numeracy problem solving strategy. That's tricky. Did everybody understand? Well, it could have been either, right? Did you understand how this person went about solving that problem numeracy wise, the relationships wise? Or did you understand how they used a simpler problem, or how they went and asked a colleague for a hint? Like there could be problem solving strategies. There could be numeracy, sort of mathematical relationship problem. As we sort of point those out, what teachers are doing to teach, those I call teaching strategy, teacher moves. We usually call them high leverage teacher moves. What are the ones that we could really get a lot of leverage out of if we just change this little thing, tweak this, create discourse in class? Those are sort of teacher moves. Because Kim, I think we've got one more kind of thing that we could call a teaching strategy.
Yeah.
But it's less about kind of what a teacher does as the teacher's teaching.
And it's not about the moves they make.
Yeah, it's not a high leverage teacher move. It's more of a routine.
Yeah.
Like sometimes we'll have teachers talk about, well, I use numberless word problems, which by the way, we love. Or I leave the answer off at the end of word problems to get students to really think about what's happening in the problem. And then I'll say, when I say leave the answer off, I mean, sorry, I actually meant leave the question off. So I might have the whole word problem, but then not ask a question. Just set up the scenario and then say, what questions could we ask? If this was the scenario, what questions could we ask? And let the kids sort of generate a bunch, and they can answer them. And then when they look at a word problem later, and all they have to do is answer the one question, like just this one, we don't have to come up with a bunch of that's all of those kinds of things. Another one that comes to mind, Peter Liljedahl and his work with building thinking classrooms has some ways of teaching, like using vertical non-permanent surfaces. So you put kids up at these vertical non-permanent, so like a whiteboard or something that you can erase. That's a way of teaching. That's a teaching strategy to get kids up, get kids, and if you add to that there's only one marker, and you add to that you're visibly randomly grouping them, all those are teaching strategies to help you teach in a different way and from his perspective, to create a thinking classroom. Those are sort of ways of arranging your teaching, ways of kind of building set routines in classroom. So we could be talking about that kind of strategy. So well, I don't know, there's like 4 different kind of strategies that we've sort of talked about today. We could have a numeracy strategy, how you mess with the numbers or structure to solve the problem. We could have a problem solving strategy. How do you attack a problem? What's the way that you kind of help yourself understand what the problem's asking? And then how do you kind of decide how you're going to employ a numeracy strategy to solve it? Maybe. That's sort of number 2. Number 3, a teaching strategy, a high leverage teacher move, the sort of discourse moves, the things that the teacher does in the act of teaching to help students learn. And then also the 4th one, kind of these ways of teaching, setting up more routines where we might, like we said, numberless word problems, leaving the question off at the end of a word problem, vertical non-permanent surfaces, randomly grouping, those kind of ways of setting up teaching.
Well, and I think you and I were talking about this because we wondered, like, in the conversations that we're having with people, how clear are we being and how clear are other people being? And like, why does it even matter that we parse out the differences between these strategies? And it boils down to, there's a lot of really cool routines and strategies out there of all kinds, but people want to adopt them as ideas in their room because they're interesting and they get kids thinking. However, if you don't have the mathematical strategies to support the other 3, then they all fall flat. Like, there's nothing worth talking about. There's nothing worth pairing kids for. There's nothing worth problem solving for. And so we center a lot of our conversation around the numerical strategies because then you bring meat to the conversation.
Yeah. And I almost just like want to have you repeat exactly what you said. Of those 4 strategies, we spend so much time talking about and building with teachers the mathematical strategies, the numerical relationships, the spatial relationships, the modeling relationships. We spent a lot of time building those strategies. That's why we did all those episodes in the 90s, all about if not algorithms, then what? Talking about those mathematical strategies, because if we don't have those, the rest of them, I mean, they might make your class a little more engaging or a little less, boring than if you just teach traditionally. But all of those things, you could do any of those other 3 kinds of strategies and they kind of fall flat because you're not actually mathematizing. You're not actually mentoring students to be mathematicians. If the content of your classroom is still about mimicking step-by-step procedures, then go at the other 3 kinds of strategies. It will, probably perk things up a little bit. But if you really want a real thinking classroom and a real engaged mentoring set of students where they are in classroom community of learners, where it's shared created understanding, then we need to have all 4 happening. And the most important, we think, is to build that mathematics. So we really have those mathematical relationships going on.
Yeah.
Nicely said. All right. If you want to learn more mathematics and refine your math teaching so that you and students are mathematizing more and more, then join the Math is Figureoutable movement and help us spread the word that math is figureoutable. Thank you for listening and making math more figureoutable.
To learn even more, make sure you register for our free challenge at mathisfigureoutable.com/challenge. You are not going to want to miss the evenings of May 15th through 17th, starting at 7 p.m. Central.
Math teaching, go register now. That's mathisfigureoutable.com/challenge. Join us to make math more and more figureoutable. And if you can't join live, register and we'll send you access to the recordings. We'll see you there.